Yeah, got it. Perfect. Okay, there we go. So now we're recording, and then let me see what I can do, and then we'll bring you back in soon, or let you watch this, Tim. Thank you for setting all this stuff up. And there we go. Admit.
It's funny. I thought I was too.
There we go. So Brandon should be here now. There's Brandon, and then
Hey there.
Let me go through and give James a call real quick.
Sure.
All right, fantastic. So, so with that, I know that Tim isn't here anymore, Eric, but do you mind actually kind of walking everybody through some of the stuff that you had found when you went through the Lambda School activity and what you liked about their site and their content and their kind of rules of three and any other rules or concept that you seem to really appreciate?
Sure. Yeah. So for those who don't know, I went through the Lambda School's website. I actually went through that whole application process, well, as much as I could do without actually being enrolled in one of their classes. And I pretty much did a competitive analysis looking at their income sharing agreement, how they marketed that, how they marketed themselves as a brand in general. Some interesting things that I found. They utilize the rule of threes a lot on their website. Like if you just go to their website, especially their income sharing agreement section of the site, there's a lot of infographics and like it's as easy as 1, 2, 3, 3 steps, 3 facts about the ISA. So that's something that I found interesting. In general, something that was really effective and that stood out about Lambda compared to some of the other academies for this kind of stuff that I looked at was they had a very strong sense of identity in terms of their brand. You see that a lot with the color coding that they did on their website. You know, the Lambda colors are navy blue, I think, and red. And it's just all throughout their website. And they also have a lot of that strong sense of identity with their various social medias, whether that be Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. And finally, just a lot of the language that they used on their website was kind of geared towards the youth, you could tell, and was very interactive. It's like, we're ready to do this with you. Are you ready? Just that kind of basic language in advertising made it pretty effective in just establishing themselves as a strong identity. So.
Very good. And then anything else that you thought was compelling or that you think that we could learn from or do from better?
Well, I think just how the website is laid out in general, it's very concise and efficient. If you want to find something, you can find it in 5 seconds. Also, it's one thing that I know I was talking to Bob about this a few weeks ago. Their social media is pretty excellent, and ours is almost non-existent in a lot of ways. So I think with a strong social media presence, that helps you get a younger client and just more clients in general.
That's awesome. And so what were some of those things like on social media?
Well, to start off, all their social medias were verified, which is that little blue check that you see next to reputable businesses, companies, artists, groups. And a lot of what I saw in their social media from a social perspective is they were including lots of shots of people of color, women. Because that's what appeals to younger crowds nowadays, because people are more socially aware now than ever, as we are well aware. Just very modern, sleek, consistent theme throughout. Something that I really liked were their, I think they call them student spotlights, where they share like a story of usually a low-income person of color and how the Lambda income sharing agreement helped them reach new lengths, which they wouldn't have been able to do, and now they're making tons of money. And just hashtags, just these basic themes across social media that all pull together to help them establish this identity of like a new, modern, efficient, caring company. It doesn't seem like, you don't want it to seem like a corporation when you're doing this stuff. You want it to seem like a friend, I guess, which they're very good at.
Awesome. And then how many posts are they kind of doing per day?
Let's see, I have that in another tab right here. Okay, on Facebook, they're doing daily posts, Instagram daily posts, Twitter 2 to 3 a day, LinkedIn daily posts.
Could you text some of those links in the chat here?
I actually have a, this is all in a, would you like a link to the actual Lambda site?
Yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Well, that, and then whatever that you have that you were going to say, I think that you were going to say that there was a spreadsheet where you already pulled all this together.
Mhm,
And
yes,
to the
I have
extent
a,
that- yeah, can you go ahead and resend that to everybody that's on this call?
yeah,
Eric, I just sent you the email address you can use.
Sure, okay. Here, I'm on my phone right now. My computer is not.
It's in
I'll
the
just
chat.
copy that. Yeah. I'll email that over right now.
Thanks, buddy.
I think somebody, hey, this is Brandon. I think somebody mentioned it earlier, but if there's a way we could start compiling a lot of this cool stuff and info that everybody can kind of share, that everyone's working on in like a Google folder or some shared folder.
Mhm.
I'm not sure how we would do that, but if we could post
Sure,
it on like
I think James set up a
Got it.
Dropbox.
I'm sorry, sending y'all the Google Drive and the password to get in where we're already saving all the EOR meeting information.
awesome.
Thanks, James.
And you'll be able to log in there. It's OneDrive. It's got all I upload everything there. You'll have the username and password. If you've got something to store in there, we got plenty of space. Drop it in there, and then everybody can have the same access.
Great.
Give you the
And
username
may
and
wanna
password in the meeting in a second.
And you may want to consider incorporating Google Keep, which allows you to kind of collect all this separate collateral material.
Cool. Thank you. So the clearly good things that we'll want to do. And then, and I know Eric has done a great job of that. And I part of wanting to get some of the stuff that Eric was saying on this recording, because, he talks about maybe a little bit more of this in an easier way than browsing through the spreadsheet, and knowing what the context is. And so I guess, Eric, would you consider that to be an effective campaign where you say, hey, we're doing 1 or 2 or 3 posts per day on Facebook, and 1 or 2 or 3 on Twitter, and then 1 or 2 or 3 on Instagram? Does that seem like that's a really healthy, active organization? Or should it be more or less? Or is there kind of an ideal ratio from what you've seen?
I think if you're talking like Facebook and Instagram, the sweet spot for those is 1 a day.
Okay.
Twitter, you can do anywhere from 1 to 3, LinkedIn 1. But the most important thing isn't just that you're just putting out random stuff. Like, you need to have, it needs to be content. It doesn't need to be like particularly important content, but content nonetheless, whether it's like an inspirational story or an, oh, EOR has done this, or just something about the field that EOR is in general. Just something to show that you're alive, basically.
Yeah, active social media presence.
Yeah, it's very important.
And Bob, just if I could add, this is Brandon, one thing out of that. The thing that helped the Power Purpose and some of the other brands that I've helped grow is it's whatever, want to look at it through like a value lens, right? Content is great, but how does that content relate to our target audience? And then also, how does it add value to their life to where they say, oh, this is cool, interesting. It could be like a guy, like an image that's just a motivational image, but then it could be a top 10 list or do this 30-day challenge or whatever it is, but just real value-based content is going to be the key to really building that raving fan list.
Great. And then that gets back to some of the stuff that I was wanting to talk about with Howard, is actually having us, build a character first series. It's the same kind of thing that would go into a drip campaign is the same thing that we could go through and push out over social media. So we look at, hey, a couple memes that might have to do with integrity or with, You know, what does it look like to have justice in the workplace? Or what does it look like to have decisiveness in the workplace? Or what does it look like to have, you know, discretion in the workplace? Or, you know, these kinds of things, you know, or even OPSEC, you know, so operational security or physical security or these other kinds of things that go by, where EOR is looking at, you know, 26 or 27 different departments that we would have, even to mobilize people. You know, how are we talking about, you know, what's fun about that? So what's fun about mobilization, or what's fun about traveling, or, you know, some of these things are self-evident, but I think to be able to show the dynamic range of the organization. And for us, we may go through and actually have a challenge where we say, hey, so we've got 27 different departments. And then so for every department, we just do a meme per department per month, you know, and then that should be really easy. And we say, okay, you guys have a week to be able to do a meme. And then before you know it, we've got 27 departments. Even if we have a person wearing 5 different hats, then that can be a really good thing to be able to show, you know, like that content, you know, so we can have, that might be an easy way for us to be able to achieve. And then we just release one of those per day, you know, and if you got 27 and there's 23 work days a month, you know, then we're pretty much covered on being able to provide 1 or 2, you know, on a daily basis moving forward. So those are a few thoughts. And then, you know, what value does that create? And then is there, you know, kind of like an intelligence-based one where we're saying, okay, here's competitive intelligence, or here's information about what's going on in our world. And so which is, why does anybody care? And then are we aware of what is socially relevant and important in our world? So, and then so what? And then what's the call to action? And then how can people become engaged? And that's what I really want to look at as we begin to move forward is, okay, if we put out something on character, especially if I'm going to pay somebody for this, I want them to click into it, and I want to engage them in such a way that they click on it and we know it. We're tracking, oh, they opened up the drip campaign on integrity, or they clicked through and they played a game with us about integrity, or they went through and they answered questions about integrity. And so in this way, we can bring, you know, integrity into their awareness, and then we wind up having a better workforce that's more cognizant of things that are meaningful to our world and to our organization. And then we get a chance to be able to talk about branding that and sharing how wonderful that is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love that.
So
Yeah,
Howard, that's a lot of what I'd like for you to be able to take lead on. And there is another organization called futureachievement.com. We've been talking about cross-promoting or reselling their merit assessment. And then also they claim to have great deep content about kind of Torah-based or biblically based character qualities that go back for thousands of years. On the military side, they call that JJ did tie buckle. So there are really good ways of being able to do this. And we're not reinventing the wheel. Like, we don't have to do a lot of research to be able to say, oh, hey, let's do something on what it is to have courage in our world and in our workplace. And here's one on integrity in our workplace. And here's one on, you know, whatever the different topic may be, you know, more empathy or more, you know, compassion in our workplace. So these are a few thoughts of how do we take things to the next level.
And photo quotes are very popular to the younger crowd. Just for some edification, I just sent in through the chat it's not the guidebook for everything, but it's a sample of when you should post to different formats. It's on the chat right now. It's called the Social Media Posting Guide that Vivian and I have incorporated with our clients, with our social media people.
Hey, are you able to, I don't think it went to everyone.
I sent it to everyone. It says everyone.
Oh, I don't,
It's
the online file.
and you just have to click on it, and it's 1.5 megabytes. It's just a guide, a little picture that just really simplifies this. And I think what Bob is saying is really important. Part of the guide is not just where to post and when to post, but collectively what kind of content we are posting and what's going to reach different people. I mean, my daughter, who's 17, uses TikTok. So if we want to reach younger people, we need to make sure we're on the right platform and creating content that has the right efficacy for these viewers.
100%.
Hey,
So
sorry.
So and then with Eric, I guess, did you feel that you shared all that you have to share, or do you have some more things that you're like, hey, you know, if EOR got their shit together, EOR should be doing these things?
I think I mostly covered what I wanted to cover. A lot of it's just the different like buzzwords that they use and the way that their social media is laid out and being utilized, because what was said about like the pictures with words on them, like that is good for like appealing to the youth, but you just need to design it in a way where it doesn't look cheesy, because I know that there's a fair amount of that on the whatever I saw on the EOR Instagram, with like those motivational pictures and like the kind of cheesy motivational quotes. Like if you want to do this stuff where you're talking about like courage, compassion, empathy in the workplace, like you're saying, you just need to find a way, both visually with the graphic design and creatively with the copy that you're writing, that makes it still be able to appeal to the youth without seeing like you're trying too hard. So you got to find a good medium.
And
Which is
Eric, what
focused on
you
that.
did say, Eric, is what I had talked about as well, is that we have to have branding. We have to create a corporate guideline, a style guide that's going to be applied, that looks professional. You know, if we're going to put a watermark in the lower right-hand corner, that's got to be there. If we're going to decide what font we're going to use, what look we're going to use, if we want to use a steel plates like Bob liked for a video concept, then that has to be determined as this is what our corporate look is going to be. Just like you see the logos for Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Google, you know what it is based almost the colors and the shape. And I think EOR needs to have those guidelines sent over to the Philippines, and they've really got to adhere to that. They've got to embrace that, and they've got to understand the importance of creating a world-class deployment strategically.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And that's actually a lot of what that they had hoped to be creating and to be doing. And I need to send that over to you, Ron, so you can see that, and also to Howard and Tim and, Eric. And one of the things that really struck out is when Eric was talking about, hey, Bob, look at their site. Look at all the little attention to detail things. So he's like, hey, they put their little flag, they put their little red flag or the little red check or their little red thing, like in every single thing that they do, there is some way that even if you lifted it or you stole the image, that it would link back to Lambda. So there's some way where hey, this image is a Lambda image, and when you're on the site, it's Lambda, 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 Lambda the whole way through, is that everything is Lambda. And so with that was kind of one of my takeaways from what Eric had shared, and so I just wanted to share that with all of us as we look at our site and we look at our content, we look at what we're doing, is everything really consistent in our branding down to the smallest image or carved way of sharing content. So I wanted to share that with you. And so I'm in full agreement, and I thank you, Ron, for bringing that up. I guess, Howard, real quick, I guess on your thoughts, is there something better that I can do to support you, or is there, I know you've been real busy with a lot of customers. How's your time frame looking like right now? Do you have some more time that you believe that you're going to have that you can share with all of us, or where are you at with regard to availability or the amount of time that we could possibly decide to work together?
We're probably looking at about 7 to 10 hours a week.
Okay. And then with that, is that a best utilization for you from initial concept, or from like a review for other people, or from like a directing kind of thing, or where do you believe that it's best for us to utilize those 7 to 10 hours?
Probably the best thing is to probably offload to others some of the things like editing and some kinds of writing, and I'll get back to that point in a second. But in my capacity, it would probably be a little bit more strategic, conceptual, and writing of some things.
Okay, great.
So
then I'm good with that. And so well, I mean, honestly, you're awesome, and I would be good with anything. You can tell me the sky's pink, and I would go, okay.
Thank you. Well, let's put it to the test, Bob. What are you seeing?
Yeah.
So the other thing too is, as we were talking about brand and being able to sort of wrangle it and define it and wrangle it and,
sure.
and govern it,
sure.
is I think we're going to have to get a little bit, show a little bit of tough love in how many people have access. So who can
sure.
post, who could provide new content. So that's going to have to be defined. We're going to have
Yes.
to, and I'm not saying that it is a group. There's not one person is is an obstacle, a bottleneck. But when we open it up, we just have to make sure that everything is supports the brand and nobody's really going rogue.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay, Howard?
Now I can, yeah.
Very good. So, and you were saying, so you said when we open it up, we're going to have to, and then that's when I cut off or I didn't hear anything more.
Yeah. So as we're defining the brand, we just want to make sure that not everybody can post on behalf of EOR. So it's going
Right.
to have to be, you're going to have to, whoever does it has to sort of demonstrate an understanding of the brand.
Yes.
And but anything anybody else does trying to be helpful, as we all know, sometimes isn't. So
It could go
you
off
just-
brand, and that's
it
what we were
go off
seeing.
it.
That's
Yeah.
what we're seeing with Sabi, and I think she meant well, and it's like anything's better than nothing except when it's not.
Well, except when exactly.
And
And
right-
it just takes one of those to
And right-
offset a lot of work.
Yeah, and
Right,
right
right.
now, EOR is a lightweight company. As it gets bigger, everything may have to go through legal. Imagine that bottleneck.
Right.
God
Right.
forbid.
Right.
We hope it's going to happen, right?
Well,
Sure,
I mean,
sure.
not everything, but yeah, I get your point though, for sure.
Well, and then the nice thing is that we actually have
Well, not
really
only
great.
legal, you got to remember when we get to the CMMC, everything will not only have to go through legal, but security.
Right, from like an OPSEC perspective.
Absolutely. Everything we do will have to go through that.
Yep, we look forward for all of that bottleneck to happen soon. That means that structure will be
Right.
Right.
Careful
Right.
what you wish for.
Right, right. Well, and the cool thing is we've got really great legal support and we've got really great security support. So I feel good about that. And I really feel good about being able to say, hey, who's responsible for each of these different departments? And then also I feel really good about us taking, an initial step to essentially, in the Marine Corps, they have an initial book of knowledge, and so they typically put it in a little green binder and then you wrap it with, some little bootstraps or whatever. And, they have you memorize a fuck ton of information.
Mm.
For us, how is it that we go about being able to talk about what is it to join EOR? And this becomes really important when we begin to look at, hey, so how is it that we talk to a 10th grader? Which is to say, hey, if you're late 3 times to a customer site, we're going to fire you, or you can be fired, or we're going to dock your pay, or, what are the ways in which that we move through this so that we can ensure that a 10th grade dropout actually shows up to be able to bill and to provide support. So these are and that's part of if I hire a retired military guy, I don't have to talk with him about punctuality and attendance, time and attendance stuff. But for a 10th grade dropout, I do. So that's where, not to say that we're all over the map here, but, and then also to some of the things that Eric talked about a little bit ago, which is like, hey, Eric, it's nice when we have oh, and here's one of the things that when we looked at, Eric and I looked at Lambda's website, they were kind of like, hey, why Lambda? And then it was like, so you got to why, and then you got to content, and then you got to enroll now. So it was like 1 or 2 or 3 things, maybe 4 right across the top that basically answered all the questions that you can have. And so I like that with Eric. But I didn't know, and clearly, Lambda has one series of classes right now, and they begin to branch out into more, what is Lambda really talking about? Today, they're talking about essentially we're a university and we're unique because we reduce the barrier to entry. And so, which is good for you, and it's a good win-win for everybody, and then they're benevolent. So that's Lambda's whole stick. They don't really talk about the quality of content. They don't talk about the quality of their courses. They just talk about, you were poor before, come with us, and then we'll all share money. And then when you're finished, then, it'll be good for you and it'll be good for us. So maybe that's where EOR needs to have kind of an abstracted layer where we're saying, hey, for wherever that you're at in life, and if you're a transitioning military person, or if you're a person transitioning from college, or if you're a person transitioning from high school, that wherever you're at in your transition, that EOR can assist you in taking the next steps in your life. And so that may be really good for us. So just sharing with you some basic ideas that I believe are things that we need to start writing and proliferating. So,
Here's another cool aspect of this too, Bob, is as you were talking before about, you know, the kind of training of, you know, what you were saying, hygiene and being on time and knowing what it is to be in the workplace and survive. So, you know, you could think of it as, so it's very employee focused, right?
Yes.
However, you know, there's opportunities here because if I'm a client, then that's a great way to take content and say, okay, open it up to the clients and say, look what we're doing to make sure that our people are ready from day one to step into your office.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
right.
Yeah, so
that is, for everyone that EOR works with, there's a 90-day onboarding process. So before they ever get to you, even if they're new, they're going to go through all of these different various levels of, you know, indoctrination and self-reflection and, you know, awakening, if you will, so that they come in being the person you need them to be. And so yes, I agree. The content needs to go and be multifaceted. So like if you're big, you move slow. If you're small, then you're nimble. You know, there can also be, hey, here's what content and integrity means to the employee, and then here's what it means to you as a customer, and then here's what it means to us as a company. So for us as a company, it's reduced risk, right? It's increased profitability, you know, which is less legal and less security because everybody already knows what it is to be able to keep their mouth shut, right? And so, you know, at least, you know, from a certain perspective, right? And we always share the happy things. So that's good, that are publicly, you know, consumable and easily digestible. And so, and then what does that mean for you as a customer, which is, hey, our folks are going to work hard for you, or they're going to do great things for you, and you're going to benefit from them. And it's going to translate to low risk for you and excellent return.
Exactly. Yep.
So I think that's what we talk about. And then honestly, I was offered a job to go become an intrusion detection analyst by an artificial intelligence company about 20 years ago. And I was like, I don't know anything about intrusion detection. They're like, oh, it's easy, we'll teach you. And I'm like, no way, I'm not a computer security guy. I'm a computer, you know, engineer, you know, a network administrator. I'm like, I'm all these things, but I'm not security. And they're like, just trust us, you're a genius, it'll be fine. And then I went through and I was like, I got too freaked out because I was very insecure and I didn't want to accept a job that I could potentially fail at. And so with that, later on, I went through and I took baby steps. I took a job in IT security that wasn't risky for me. And then I realized, not that it was super easy, there's still a lot to it, but that it was less risky than I had thought. And eventually I became one of the best cybersecurity guys in the world in a very short period of time. This taught me that, quite honestly, I could have gone back and become an IDS analyst. I mean, it's a console, it's an application, you know, it's like, it's not that difficult. And so I was really overly aggrandizing, or I was adding to the risk, and there was fear in me that didn't allow me to accept success at that point in my life. So I believe that probably this is prevalent with a lot of people, where if they were going to move into a new type of job area, if they didn't feel comfortable about their skill sets, that they wouldn't move into that new opportunity. So I think that we can also look at reducing the risk, which is, hey, come join EOR's onboarding program. And when you do that, then we'll prepare you to have great success in any number of fields. And so I think that really is how we reduce the barrier to entry. And that's what we learned from Lambda's success. And remember, within 9 months, they raised $14 million. And they had significantly more than that, from what I understand, in backlog. So we should be able to have more backlog. We should be able to deliver better, and we should be able to show people how we're making it easier for them to come and work in our industry, which is kind of like no clearance, no problem, you know? And then so citizenship, you know, we can even assist people with citizenship. And so how do we work through those types of issues and activities? And then, hey, no degree, no problem. And so these are the kinds of things that we'll be able to support. And then how do we, if we're talking about, hey, you don't have these things, well, then we remove the issues and the barriers. But maybe we flip it and say, hey, if you're looking for a greater opportunity, then, you know, how do we assist people in upgrading their mindset and so in providing greater value? So if you're looking for a great opportunity, here's the greatest opportunities to be able to serve mankind in our country and our world and our organizations and our families, et cetera, et cetera. And that kind of gets into the 16 points of separation on the personal side and then also on the work side. So we've documented these things, but we really haven't taken them to the next level. And so that's kind of what I'm inviting for us to do now. And then also as these concepts mature between us, like, you know, how do we convey them in a way that creates the benefit for all of us? So hopefully that's a good start. I want to belabor the meeting. Clearly, you know, being able to provide Tim some of this basic information along with, and I don't know, from a concert perspective, I know that you've been, well, I understand that you've probably been very busy with other customers, and with 7 to 10 hours a week, it sounds like that you still are really engaged with other customers. And I just realized that probably a lot of organizations love you, you know, Howard. And so with that, and you know, just smart people, right? Smart people know other smart people, and they would be wise, and as I am, to continue to choose to do business together and to do, you know, do things in life that are fun. And then with that said, have you been waiting on Tim, or have you been waiting on me, or have you just been, you know, 100% or 120% booked up? Like, is there anything that I can do to make it, you know, easier for you to move forward with the last conversations that we've had?
Well, I've actually been looking at the last week or so. I've been doing editing on the stuff that's on the Google Drive. So I've been doing a lot of editing of that stuff.
Cool.
So I've, you
Okay,
know,
great.
so
Great.
as we've been, you know, as I find myself with time, that's just sort of easy to pick up and just start doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was saying before, does it make the most sense for me to be doing that stuff? I'm not quite sure, but at least, but it needs to be done. So
That's cool. That's cool. And if and when that you go through and make edits, you know, just so that we know, like just, you know, take a copy of that and send it out to everybody in an email. Because I don't think there's a mechanism on Google right now that says, oh, hey, Howard came in and made something good, brilliant. And because that's what he does, we just, you know, wouldn't know that you even touched the file. So, so if you just, you know, send out an email and say, okay, hey, I took this document, here's the link, here's the update, here's the prior text, here's the current text, then that would be super epic. And then we would know that we could then put that in for review and then send that off to the developers to have them incorporate that into content. Does that sound like a good way for us to,
that's a good plan.
know?
Yeah, but I have to say though, a lot of the edits though are kind of cosmetic. I mean, there's so much content that, and we could talk about this later. I have to wonder how. My main concern is that people are able to digest it. It's served at the right time, but when there's too much of it, obviously we know people aren't going to read it. So I think there's more opportunities to take these huge blocks of text and maybe even make them more visual somehow, because just seeing lots of words is not the way people digest information. The people that Eric is talking about.
Right.
So
well, and I think that may be something that Ron and Vivian are offering to do for us with, you know, videos. And I know that that's something that Tim has done in the past for us as well. And so if we feel that there's a lot of good content, I know one of the things that you're great at is distilling content into, you know, keywords. And so it may be the right time for us to go through and to say, okay, you know, I've gone through these documents and here's the key takeaways, and maybe we share them as a group or with Brandon or Vivian or Ron or Tim or someone else or Eric. And then maybe we, you know, even to Eric, actually just have him, you know, memeify or, you know, put the words with pictures or whatever those things may be. And then maybe also that goes into, you know, the distillation. I got to show you these couple videos that the folks in the Philippines made, because they're really good, and we should just voice over, you know, those concepts and then take it to the next level. So I'm excited to kind of see some of that. And I don't mean to talk over you. I just was sharing with you that now that we have, you know, 3 or 4 full-time Photoshop people on staff, you know, we might even be able to go through and to say, hey, you know, here's one of the content-rich things that we have had. Here's the topic of today. You know, I want everybody to generate 3 to 5 memes or 3 to 5 visuals or 3 to 5 kinds of posts, you know, per topic. And then we can bake off, you know, which ones are the best. And maybe that's a better way for us to engage people and then to have them click through, and then for us to find a smart way of tracking the click-through rates on those things. So, or the conversions, etc. Hopefully that's in the same keeping of thought that you have, and I'm happy to be quiet, have you, you know, like maybe share how you believe that it should be done in the best way.
Cool. All right. So actually, I do have to hop off, but
Okay, thank you.
it was good talking to everybody. Nice meeting Ron and Vivian and everybody.
All right. Thank you, Howard.
All right.
Appreciate
Talk
it.
to you soon. All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you, brother. Okay, bye-bye. And then, all right. So hopefully that's a good start. Yeah. So Ron and Vivian, Howard is brilliant. The stuff that he does is epic. I mean, there's a reason that he was an executive at Marriott and then also leading those activities with Sprint. So he's really, really skilled at taking a lot of data and distilling it down into small bullets. And so with that said, and then his son carries that same level of brilliance. So I'm very, very happy that they're both here supporting our activities, and I'm happy that we got this new MIDI device. Also, Eric, just so that you know, Ron also plays music. He's also in Jersey, and so it might be fun for you guys to get together and do some jam sessions. And then yeah, there you go. It sounded like you're happy about that. And then with that, Ron's really epic when it comes to playing like the bass guitar and several other things, and has, some other musical and technical proclivities that I think would be complementary. And Ron was talking about actually making music for our website and for our videos and stuff like that. And so it might be fun for the two of you to collaborate in developing content and taking forward with original scores or original concepts, for us as we move forward. So just wanted to at least share those introductions and those kinds of ideas together.
Yeah, and
Very cool.
just to add to that, my band Broken Darling recently released our latest album, so I just put the link on the chat. So you're welcome.
Oh, cool. Well, there you go,
Check
Eric.
that
You'll be able to listen to the stuff that Ron's been doing, and maybe you
Yeah,
can
of course.
reciprocate and show him some of the stuff that you've got going on, if that's YouTube links or something else. And then, so hopefully that's a good start. And Brandon, kind of welcome to the team, and now you're able to see some of the different kinds of ideas and concepts and resources that we have, and clearly we need to put that into an org chart that actually makes sense, or a resource kind of rubric that allows for us to talk about who can do what, when, and what timelines, and at what cost, and how does that directly relate to or support revenue. And it should reduce the cost of customer acquisition for the more content and the more socialization, and basically the higher level of prestige that we have as an organization. And that, for a low cost, we can have a large presence out there on the web. And then we can also have a large degree of conversion at a lower cost. And then we can have a higher quality of people, that are working to support our organization. And then I know that James is here. And so I know that somewhere in our group that we know easily how to, ensure that in a social media account perspective that we've been verified, and that we actually have, that high level of integrity. And then we need to come up with our production supply chain of who nominates concepts, who tasks them down, and then who generates, concept artwork, and then how do we approve that, and then how do we, upgrade it, and then how do we go through and release it. So we should be talking more about that here in the near future. And I know that in the past that Vivian had talked about getting, me and or EOR on IMDb, and then being able to talk about those kinds of things, from, what actually makes us credible. And so we should be talking more about how we do those things here in the near future.
Bob, a prerequisite to being on IMDb is that you've had a strong presence in the media, and that's why I mentioned that for our television guests.
Yes.
When you get to be on broadcast TV, it aggregates to other mediums like IMDb.
It's because it's owned by Amazon, but you have to have done something in order to have that ability to be on, and that's when being a full half hour into episode guest is what makes that possible.
Yes, 100%. And I've been on television shows like First Name Only, and then invited to participate in profile series and things like that in the past. And that's also part of the reason that we did the technology headlines and the CIO review and those kinds of things as well, so that we begin to tell the story in a way that is meaningful. And what I love about the CIO review magazine that we were in is that they had the #1 guy from DoD. So this guy's got 5 million people and over 10 million computer systems, and they gave him 2 pages. In the same article, we're on the cover, and then also we're in multiple different pages for that as well. And so so we had 7 pages where that other guy had 2. So it's nice for us to be able to know these things as we begin to promote or to be able to talk about that. And there's also important things like on our LinkedIn, when we can go through and cross promote. There's a guy like Jerry Dixon, who had, who was basically the third cyber czar of America, and he's endorsing me. So, no one knows that that's the third cyber czar. It doesn't say that. It says he was the director of security at the IRS, which is still a big deal. But I think when you go to, oh, hey, here's a guy who stopped talking with the president of the United States, excuse me, Mr. President, I'm going to stop talking with you, and I'm going to go and unilaterally endorse Bob Behringer, who didn't ask me to do that. I just feel compelled to do it. Like, that's pretty fucking cool, is to know that a guy that's working for and on behalf of the whole world is taking time to on his own come and endorse me and the activities that we supported. And then also Richard Rudinsky, who was the third, he was the number one, they called it Human Collector of the Year. So this is the number one spy working for the CIA 3 years in a row under George Tenet, and he's endorsing me like the A-team. So, I think that how do we go about like actually, bringing these concepts like, hey, who is Richard and how amazing is Richard? And then it gets dicey because then you're saying, well, hey, can we really talk about how awesome he was at the CIA? And can we publicly talk about those things? And then how do we make it, contextually appropriate for Richard, and then also, appropriately consumable and digestible for the world at large, and then also, in a good way for us. So just sharing a few of those ideas that I think are meaningful. And then I agree that, yeah, hey, being a guest on a TV show is a good way to be able to do that. And then also what kind of TV show and what kind of platform and what kind of concept should we be utilizing, to be able to do those things. So, and maybe it's Stop My Crisis or Beyond My Crisis, or maybe it's something else. And that's part of where, in the past I had, and this just so that, maybe Ron was on the phone, maybe you guys could hear me, but I was definitely inviting or trying to carve out the space from June 8th through June 11th for us to look at inviting and bringing people to here to Maryland so that we could collaborate together. And maybe that'll get pushed a week or two, but at least we know that we're starting to socialize those concepts, and then also that we're at a good place of being able to plan out, hey, what content is important for all of us and how do we take it to the next level, block and tackle it, and what are the kinds of things that we want to invest in writing right now. So I hopefully that's good. I feel like I feel like I'm finished speaking. As we kind of go once around, I guess, Brandon, was this meaningful to you? Do you have any other thoughts, Save Rounds Alibis kind of direction, or has this been good food for thought? Where are you at, buddy?
Yeah, this is great. This is awesome. Kind of for a first pass, just digesting, taking it all in, and excited to come out. I don't know if it's next week or whenever you want to do that, but excited to bring people together and whiteboard it to really map it out. Some initial things I was thinking about was how to incorporate that free $10,000 ad budget in Google AdWords, and how to, drive traffic if we had, like educational courses or whatever we were doing that we brought in under the EOR side, but leverage the nonprofits as well. So just kind of thinking through a few things. I've got a few ideas, but just peeling back layers of the onion so I can kind of fully understand everything. And
right. And what we may choose to do is to look at like a commercial, like, hey, here's a $2,500 class, right, with expert facilitation, and this is the commercial side. And then, if you didn't have $2,500 for this class, you could go into the nonprofit, and then the nonprofit could go through and offer a scholarship.
Yeah, we've done that.
Right. And so if we do that, then EOR, for every single scholarship that it offers, as we discount from MSRP, should get us, a $2,000 tax credit per donation.
Yep.
So before you know it, we take in 100, students, and then, that's $2,000 a pop, which is fantastic. And then they're paying the nut of the class at $500 per class. So it costs us nothing. And then we gain $2,000 times, you know, is $200,000 in tax credit, which means that we can be more profitable and still keep 100% of our profit.
Yep.
So I like that. And then also, I know that you had invited Amy tomorrow, but we should also have James on that call. So James, to the extent that you're here tomorrow afternoon or sometime tomorrow, please coordinate with Brandon and also with Amy, and let's begin to look at moving forward with the incorporations for the different organizations that we had talked about. And specifically for this reporting should be Infinite Solutions, Bulletproof Warriors, Hire One Vet, Warriors for Change, Virtual Vet Solutions, Homes for Vets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So those are 6 that we're looking for. I thought there was 7, but to the extent that there is or there isn't, you know, let's go through and work through those ideas. And then also, let's get all of the 501c3 paperwork. If it's easy for Brandon to do, then great. And then if it's not, then let's bring in Michelle, because Michelle Emerson says, oh, it's easy. And she was able to do the 3-page document, you know, basically in a few minutes. So she does the same 3-page document with different names on it, you know, or templates one out for us, and we can change the names to be able to move forward on that. But if the 3 of you could take action on those things tomorrow, that'd be great.
I'll
I'll take
the lead on that, because
Cool.
there's certain language, and we've done a bunch of those.
Great.
So
All right.
I just need
Fantastic.
to know what state. We could talk offline, but what state you want to file in?
Sure. And so to the extent we probably want to go through and file all of those in Texas. There's certain tax credits that we get in Texas, and then also as we hire people, then there are certain things like, you know, no state tax for employees, et cetera. They make all their stuff in sales tax. So that's probably where we want to look at being. And then also there's certain tax holidays that they provide for us down there. And that's part of the reason I wanted you to visit with James, because he's going to be smarter about those things. On the not getting sued side of things, Delaware is a really great place. And so we should just be smart about how we're doing these things. And Brandon, if you've got it all 100%, then fine. If not, or if you'd like to delegate that out in a more timely way to Michelle, should it be timely, great. Or if you're looking for some other concepts with James, and that's cool too. Just want to make sure that you knew that James is going to be moving, and he always really has been working on special projects with me. And so this should be, you know, being able to take this to the next level. And he's got a really good eye for being able to look at things like tax credits and how do we make our real cash stretch further, and how do we get more benefits out of that. And then for the call, I think it's good. I know we already did the last 4-hour call last Monday, maybe the Monday before that. But when we get to cases, you know, which is the knowledge, skills, and ability, but also basically knowledge, ability, certification, education, experience, and skills. So being able to go through and to gamify that, and for us to be able to talk about kind of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, being able to do a reset and to be able to do elevation. So with that, we may want to have, you know, kind of an analysis engine where we go through and say, hey, are you concerned about where you're going to be living at next week? If so, then we know where we need to be talking with people about, right? So we always cover down on the basics, you know, or are you concerned about, you know, your overall self-realization goals, you know, and then we know where they're actually at. And so we can have people just opt into different versions of content per level of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And so that way we're meeting people at their point of need. So that can be an interesting way for us to be able to serve up and organize content. So hopefully that's meaningful. Hey, James, any save rounds, alibis, questions, recommendations?
No, I did put in there the EOR meetings. We have a Google Drive, and if you look at in your chat section, I put the username and password, so everybody can go out and go check out the past meetings. And if you're the one recording, you can upload this one to that folder. We got plenty of space on there, and if it starts running short, I'll buy more space.
Great. Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. All right, very good. And then, okay, so Google Drive user, thank you. And then, and then got the Ron and Vivian album thing, very cool. Broken Darling, very cool. All right, so very cool about that. Okay, and then I guess any save rounds and alibis, Ron? I guess we know that we're going to be meeting, you know, hopefully this next week, or we're working to get closer to a definitive date, time frame for us to do that. Was this worthwhile for you to meet Tim and Howard and Eric and kind of Brandon? Did you gain value out of this, or are there other things that you'd like for us to discuss at this time?
I did definitely value. So thank you for inviting me. I'm going to review what's on the Google Drive and keep assimilating this information.
Okay.
And from what I had spoken to on this meeting, I think we have an initiative to continually organize and focus the data. Like you have a big picture and a vision, and
Yes.
now this needs to really get into the minutia.
Yes.
And so I think this is the first step I've seen to really dig into that aspect. And I think
Great.
more of that is going to absolutely be necessary to
Awesome.
decipher what the real next steps need to be. What are our priorities? What are our milestones that we need to get to? I mean,
Great.
setting dates and accomplishments, I think, would be a good thing. SMR, specific measurable results, for each person's task. So we need to start taking on the tasks with timelines.
Great. And I'm digging that. And then also we started coming up with a different thing. There's a ring out here. Do you know where that ring's coming from, honey? You hear a ring out here? I don't know. Maybe it's outside. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, there's just started being a ring, and I think it's outside actually. So the anyway, when we get to this next piece, we were talking about rooms. So Brandon's gonna start working on Airbnb concepts for us. And then so we shared some of that. And then so here's what we were looking at for next week for folks flying in. So Mark Stickle, Amy, Bob, Tim, Howard, and Eric are all local. And then we have Greg, James, Mike, Brandon, Ron, and Vivian, and Donnie that may be coming in from other areas. So just sharing that, and that looks like that could be as many as 6 different rooms that we might need. And then maybe we actually break that down into 3. So maybe, Greg and James bunk up, and maybe Mike and Brandon bunk up. And then we look at, Ron and Vivian, and then also Donnie. And then also what's really cool is that was really, really goofy. So,
Hey,
with
Bob,
that, yes.
don't forget, we should start using a travel agency to book all this stuff through.
Yeah, and I'm good with that. And then also on the Airbnb side, this was some of the stuff that Brandon was recommending. So maybe we do a house over there, and maybe we actually have.
You may be able to do that through the travel agency too, and save a little bit that way.
100%. And then so, but at least that's why I wanted to bring it up, so that it wasn't necessarily Brandon doing that on his own. And then so to the extent that you're able to assist, or Paul is able to assist, etc. The other one is, James, hey, look, I don't have solid follow-up from Paula about everyone doing daily status reports. The need for us to maybe have an offline conversation. And so I got the one update, but I'm not having her make this a big thing where it's like, hey, this is your first, like calling everybody up. Hey, I got everybody's but yours. Send me a daily status report. Leave voicemails on people's phone. This is the second day that I'm doing this for you. Please do this. And then also for Mohammed, with him and his family and cancers, like his wife's got cancer and stuff. So we want to be, sensitive and compassionate and supportive. And then also, we need to ensure that we're being good for him and that he's also being equitable and profitable for us. So let's have her reach out to every single person that didn't submit a DSR on Friday, and then follow up and make sure they do that. And then also she can make that verbal reminder or send out the email to everybody, and then she can call everyone that she doesn't get the responses for by like 9 a.m. tomorrow and say, hey, you need to know what it is that you're planning to do today and what it was that you got accomplished yesterday. And so for wherever she's at, let's make this a priority and get everybody on track with getting daily status reports for a whole company. So we said it, they need to do it, and we'll do 3 verbal warnings. So we'll do 3 written warnings. Anyone that doesn't comply, they need to go through and be recommended for termination. So it's a real simple thing for everybody to be able to follow. So let's get to a place where we're actually doing professionally.
And make sure that she puts that on her first to-do list.
Thank you. And then so hopefully it's kind of a good start for the things that we talked about and planning to get rooms. And so I've got 2 rooms that are really available upstairs right now. So
Bob, while you're talking about the room, sorry to interrupt.
yes.
Is it possible for us to start doing our real meetings on this on Tuesday the 9th and Wednesday the 10th? And how many days do you think we would need to be there, like Vivian and myself?
So I think that as long as that you would like, and then I really think that we could get a lot done in 2 to 4 days.
Okay.
So just sharing that with you, and then how long does it take for us to unpack knowledge and content, and then how long does it take for us to move that into actionable, to a plan of action with milestones, and then generate specific measurable results later on. So those are
Right.
great
So-
questions. And then you may actually come up between now and then, Ron, with a specific plan of action, and then you just brief it, and then everybody falls underneath, your concepts, and you lead us to success in another level. And so, from a planning or production, which is kind of cool. I didn't hear Tim or Howard talk about any type of video campaigns, even though that's well within Tim's purview. And so, and then also I have asked Howard several times for, briefed him on projects. And I know that he's been really fully engaged with other customers. And one of the things that Howard will tell you about is, I had gone through and talked about people living their dreams. And then Howard started asking those questions, which is, am I living my dream job? And then, and dream life. And then he went through and said that he wasn't. And then he wound up quitting working at Marriott.
I just want to keep my question simple.
Sure.
Can we make it at the meeting and get full content if we come on, say, Monday night and start on Tuesday the 9th? And if we need the 12th, I need to reschedule some challenging.
No, I would not reschedule anything. I think that we'll get whatever that we can done, whenever that we can get it done.
Okay.
And so
I just want to be there for
Sure.
when you really need me to be there. And my request is that we can compress everything we need to do on the 9th and 10th, and then we'll be leaving on the 11th at any time.
Sure.
If I'm home, Friday morning, then I don't have to reschedule this appointment.
Right. And then that's where I would go through and look at kind of flipping it, which is to say, hey, during the time from the evening of the 9th or the evening of the 8th through the 11th or what have you, let's agree in advance what an agenda looks like. Let's agree in advance to what value that is you're proposing. And let's agree in advance that maybe you talk about the amazing Ron and Vivian show. And maybe we talk about something else, or maybe talk about, the pitch for, EOR's television channel, or about new content, or about how that you may like to lead those things, or, whatever it is that, like, you've been around, with me for a while. And so what really are you passionate about? And that's actually kind of what I was trying to get to with Howard, was him saying, he quit working at Marriott. For me, it was like, I'm so super happy for him that he's, choosing to live a life. But then I was also kind of in fear at the time, going like, well, what if he doesn't make any money? like he's quitting, something. And it turned out that it was the perfect time for him to quit. And everybody that didn't quit wound up getting laid off. So then, like, he already had a whole book of business that he was able to build. So, like, I just wished the best for him, and I wasn't in fear about it, but there was still, like, those thoughts came up, which is like, what does that look like? And then, so on the other side, Howard's a big boy, and he wound up having a lot of people he's worked with, and then he's prospered, well, since that time. So, so I think that us asking people, what does your dream job look like? What does your dream life look like? I think that also extends to you, Ron, and also to Vivian. And, what does the dream look like for the two of you? And then how would you propose us stepping forward into a better dream for the two of you and for us all? And so those kinds of things, which is to say, hey, maybe you go from content consumption to being able to go through and to make it, keep it simple, stupid, right? Like, you just like, here, let me simplify my question. Can we do it in this time? The answer is yes. One of the ways of doing that is for us all to come up with an agenda, before that we arrive and publish the agenda, and to say, here is where, Ron and Vivian would like to talk about the EOR television show, and about the Ron and Vivian show, and about Stop My Crisis, and about, Beyond My Crisis. And maybe those are 15-minute segments, or maybe they're 2-hour segments apiece. And maybe there's 4 different topics, or maybe we talk about how Ron's going to hold everything in his brain, and about how that we're going to fund Ron for holding it in his brain, and Ron's going to facilitate and manage, content dissemination. And then Ron's going to break off small little pieces of that go to Howard, and Howard's going to distill it for copy. And then maybe Eric's going to go through and write music for that. And then maybe Tim's going to go through and be managing, the video production that's coming out of the Philippines, or making his own videos, or doing his own blue screens, or maybe that's some stuff that the Ron and Vivian show does. So a lot of these things go beyond, what it is that I have to say and what my concepts are, and really what your offerings are, or what your dreams are. And so I think it's probably a really good time for me to share that, because this is, directly applicable for Howard, and also for Tim. And I'll tell you, with Howard, I'm so impressed with Howard that I really want to say, hey, Howard, how much are they paying you? Because I want to pay you more, because I choose to have more Howard time, because Howard's really amazing. It's also the same thing that I was choosing to do with Eric, to say, hey, Eric, what's your dream? What have you been doing? Like, how long have you been back? And Eric was like, oh, I've been back for a month. What have you been doing, Eric? I've been doing music. I'm like, well, fuck it. Let me go through and assist you in doing music, Eric, and I'll buy you a synthesizer, and then you can do music for us. He's like, really? I could get paid to do music? I'm like, fuck yeah. And then we got a happy Eric, and we got a productive thing. And we actually have somebody contributing value for something that we need to do anyway. So to that extent, how do we collaborate, and how do we actually make positive momentum where it's aligned with everybody's goals and visions and dreams, and bottom line, so the profitability for all of us, and the wins, so the universal wins for everybody.
And what also just came to me?
Huh.
When we onboard employees, we could create a video content for employers to be able to look through, kind of like
100%.
The dating site of
yes,
of
100%. Yeah, absolutely. Are we doing this, kind of Zoom initial meeting where we actually do, we record each of the interviews, so that in a potential, employer can say, hey, EOR's already pre-screened them, and here is the dating show, or the dating game, or the swipe right if you like this person, swipe right if you like this resume, swipe right if you like to go through and to actually see this person talking and interacting with our staff, etc. And then doing, this is the way we did our virtual stuff, and this is why we decided to represent this person, for you and for your company.
And Vivian and I could be interviewing them in like
Sure.
a talk show format, almost an interview format, as if HR would be
Sure.
posing some questions that would be relevant for their
Sure.
career.
Sure, absolutely. And then maybe find out
I've never seen that before, and
Sure.
I think that would set us apart and even give us some press.
Well, yeah, I understand. Yeah, 100%. And then also, and then you start looking at some of the stuff that Eric was talking about. So you've got, a minority person of color that's posting a meme saying, I used to have a shit life, and now I've got a better life. I used to have shit money, now I've got better money. And so we can do that. We've done that with so many people. And it turns out that EOR hires disabled vets and, people internationally. And I'm not going to say exclusively, but yeah, for a lot of that, and we got a guy running DC3 operations. He is one of the darkest Black African dudes that has a master's degree, and he's super smart. So he's one of the most successful Black guys that you'd ever seen. They're like really, really dark Black. And then we've got people that are Afghanistan, from Afghani and Persian. And we've got people that are from Israel. We've got other people that are from Iraq, and from Kuwait, and from Qatar, and from Turkey, and from Kurdistan, and so we've got people from all over the world, and
Right.
Korean people and Japanese people, and and other folks
And
that,
as you mentioned that, Vivian and I finished the book, This Is Your Brain on Parasites. And one of the things that tweaked my brain from what you were saying is we need techniques and technologies and methodologies to get over the hump of the prejudice that is still going on worldwide, in America and outside. And there must be some way we can kind of break through those barriers, those fear barriers of, we don't know why we don't like this person, and we just don't like them, when inside is like, this is their protection mechanism to stay away from that. I think if we break those barriers and be an onboarding company that has done something in psychology, sociology, and just human interaction that is different than anybody else that's done it, I think
100%.
That's huge.
Well, and I've got licensed clinical psychologists that love me and that will work with us and would be happy to go through and be able to do like intakes. So when you begin to look at, like, hey, we'll go through and have you do a full psychometric panel, and then we'll have you talk with one of our great psychologists to ensure that this is the right job fit, the right life fit for you. So it reduces the employee's risk, and it reduces the customer's risk. And then it also, like if you watch the TV show Billions, they actually have an on-site, licensed clinical psychologist that works there to be able to basically, upregulate the mental status of Wall Street traders so that when they're doing big dollar deals, they don't break or they don't fall or jump out a window.
I'd
And
rather not have one of those degree
Yeah.
people. I'd rather have someone that knows how to do feedback, biofeedback, and
Sure. Well, sure. And that's where we've got Glenn Weiner. Okay. So he's a nice Jewish man. She's a very good guy. We got another guy that's down there in Florida. He runs a place called Center for Brains. And so we've got, his name is Dr. Mike Cohen. And so we have really good people. I got another Jewish fellow that is a licensed, what they call a national security psychologist. So he works with the CIA and with the FBI guys. And if they pull their gun, then he's got to be able to do the duty, fitness, return stuff. And so all of these guys have cool toys for doing biofeedback. And we can bring in life coaches. We have an entire cadre of life coaches that are friends of ours. And so there is a way for us, and that's part of maybe doing that Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Where we're like, hey, what do you need right now? Or what are your greatest fears, or what are your greatest hopes, or what are your greatest challenges, or what are your greatest things? Like those, honestly, those are the best questions that we can ask.
Bob, I'd like to experience some of what you're saying, including the neurofeedback and the biofeedback that these people that you want to connect with can do. I'd like to see what they come up with for me, and I want to have that experience kinesthetically, so I can wrap our minds around it, so we can maybe shoot content that's relevant to why we are different and significantly better than anything.
Sure. Well, and then maybe we go through and we schedule certain shoots, and so maybe we go through and we do, like I think we should do fitness for health. We do a shoot for every single one, like 2 or 3 minute clips that are easily digestible, that talk about certain things, and that we actually highlight fitness for health in all those different 15 or 20 areas. And then I think we go down and we visit with Glenn Weiner. And so they wanted an American sounding name. So they thought a hot dog. So that's why they changed their names when they came over from Israel to Weiner. And so it's just stuck, right? So Glenn Weiner, you can't make this stuff up. And so he's 67 and he's actually got the flower of life, and he's got the Star of David on his chest, and he's got beta coming in, and then he's got alpha, love, frequency, life force coming out. So it's really beautiful. And so he's got Vialites, and he does neural feedback, and he does all kinds of really cool things that allow for people to be able to upgrade. So that's Glenn Weiner. And then so we can go through and do sections with him where we break off a whole afternoon, and actually do, 3 minute clips for all of the toys that he has. And then we can do the same thing for us, and then we can hire people to go through and like even bring in and interview the people where we bought toys from. Like we've got the biocharger. So we could do, a half-hour segment with the biocharger people. And then we could go through and do a half-hour segment with the Rasha people. And we could do a half-hour segment with the Rife people. And we could do a half-hour with quantum resonance people. And we could do a half-hour with some of the folks that do, BioWell, the GDV, gas discharge visualization. So we could bring in Tiffany to be able to do that. And so she's really great. We can bring in some of the Russian inventors. So when you begin to look at what are some of the things that set us apart, and then also maybe even Ben Greenfield and why they actually show 1600% IGF and HGH up regulation, so these are some of the things we can talk about from a biohacking perspective. And then also when we're talking with some of the different folks who are licensed clinical psychologists, we can also talk with them about why is it important that we actually have these psychometric evaluations. And so when you look at the Taylor-Hartman protocol, and you look at Taylor protocols, and you look at Briggs-Myers-Young and MBTI and color code, and why do we do these kinds of things? So, and then what do they mean? And you look at EQ versus IQ, and then EQ and IQ, and could you have a synergy? And then you look at HRV, and you talk about like another section that we'd have with the folks over there. So Carol Bike, for cool glycogen production. And then the next one could be about, some of these other activities. And I know I just jumped tracks there for a second.
Yeah. So, so to do this and to show viability, of course, I would want to be a happy participant and document it, but I also want to find a candidate that is not the most desirable, and let's put him through our upgrade and show what the results can be. But we really have to kind of map this out. What are the components that would really get this person upgraded? And we want to find someone that really is quite depreciated energetically. Their mitochondrial function is poor. Their just awareness is off. And let's record them in their worst state and
Sure.
show what each upgrade is going
Right.
to open up.
Well,
for them.
and when this is a great documentary when it comes to, biohacking and life upgrades and bioenergetics. So all of this is great. And then we've got to get to that next place, being able to talk about, how does this fucking make us money? All of us, right? Which is not me paying. Like I choose to be the best partner you've ever had, as opposed to the best client. And how do we do that? And then how long before as partners do we actually make money together? And so these are good upgrades for all of us. And, when we get to, how do we find someone that maybe was unemployable before and then we get them employable? And with that goes into, this company called Source America, and then also AbilityOne.gov as the parent. So from AbilityOne.gov gives us contracts where we can hire disabled vets and people on the autism spectrum and people that have disabilities, and this is where the Hire One Vet and these other kinds of things that we're doing right now with Brandon, that's where we bring it in. And then we transfer that over to a First Amendment church or a kibbutz that's under a First Amendment church. And then all of a sudden, we're able to have a multi-generational land trust. So there's a way to be able to create great wealth. And so we can do these things. And so how are we reducing the barrier to entry? Which is basically, if you're a double amputee, we can get you a job that you could have for the rest of your life, so long as you show up and do a good job. All things being equal, that's possible. And then you can go over and say, okay, well, if you've got Down syndrome, and, you're willing to do work, we can probably get you a job. And if, you're, whatever it is, where you may have had challenges in your life, or if you were a high school dropout, we can assist you in getting your GED, and or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we can take these things step by step. And so I'm just sharing that with us into how does this create revenue? And for that, maybe, like one of the things that's really cool, I'll share with you, Steve Kotler, and we can introduce Steve. He was able to cure himself of Lyme disease. There are a lot of people now doing superhuman stuff. There's actually a cool thing, I think, that's called Superhuman Blueprint, or maybe it's called the Energy Blueprint. And so they're doing some interesting.
Steve Kotler cured himself of Lyme. Well, he still has the antigens in his body, of course, right?
I don't even know how to say that. What I'm going to say is that Steve Kotler is a very interesting person who used to have Lyme and that no longer is symptomatic,
Right.
Of those issues. And so I can say that really easy. I can also go through and say that Steve teaches a class on writing. So he's a several-time New York Times bestseller. And he basically donates his books, and then he goes through and holds classes, and that's how he makes his money. So I'm just sharing with you his business model. But what he does is he basically goes through and he gets an advance, right? He gets an advance from, a publisher for 6 figures. So he gets $100,000 advance. Then he goes through and he puts his $100,000, 100% into marketing his book, right? So $100,000 in marketing. Then he writes the book for basically free, or for, 30,000 he keeps, whatever it takes for him to focus on writing his book. Gets in a co-author that is a really well-named co-author. Okay. And then, so he gets the co-author, right? He goes through and he puts in his time. They do whatever, $70,000, $80,000 in marketing. And then they go through and they book all of these speeches, right? So it's book signing, invites people to come do classes, do masterminds, whatever. And then he makes over $1 million in that. And then because he's going through and giving his books away, or because he did the marketing, then he gets the $100,000 back from, basically to the publishers or whatever, so he basically breaks even on that part. He delivers the book, I guess. So they advance him $100,000. He delivers the book, he generates the sales. And then, some of that goes back to the publisher. They're happy about it. And then he's able to go through and to book the rest of those different venues. So
That's the book, Bob, can people replicate what he does?
Oh yeah, 100%. And so he teaches a class, and I went to his class, and it's 100% replicatable.
So do you want our process and connection to all these technologies to be kind of the keys to the castle and be kind of kept under wraps? Or do you want to just give all this information away. We don't want to, breed competitors necessarily.
So with that, honestly, no one's going to go through like, the barrier to entry for somebody to go through what I've done is my whole life, and then I put 5 years into this, and when you talk about playing with the toys, I put in hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. The one class with BioCybernauts, 25 grand by itself. And then that's not including, the travel and all the rest of that stuff that goes with it. So I probably tied up or fully committed about $40,000 into that. And then, thankfully the guy donated the class, so that reduced the barrier to entry. And then some of the stuff that's going to happen with Glenn Weiner is I'm going to have Glenn donate some of this time for you. And then I'm going to have Mike Cohen donate some time from you. And so I've got other folks where we can donate and reduce the barrier. But, even just these costs for a person who would normally have to do this, it's kind of like a press pass. Like press pass is really cool. You go to, CEDIA or CES for electronics. You pay a lot of money to be able to do these things and to be able to get in, or Hacker Halted, or, Black Hat, or, any of these other kinds of events, DEF CON. You get a press pass and you get to go in for free anywhere. So it reduces the cost. And then it also makes it easier for you to be able to co-brand the organizations that are there. So there is a way for us to reduce costs and increase wins, across the board. And so I want to share that with you. And then also, we may decide to start co-authoring some books. So I'm very close to picking up the phone, talking with Marty Gallagher, and writing our next book together. And so that would be an interesting kind of thing that could be a lead-in. We could actually get paid for it, and we get a $100,000 lead, and we could go through and make our right book proposal. And what we may do is have Steve Kotler and Marty Gallagher go through and lead it, and then I pay both of them for their next book. And there's another guy who does stuff for Wim Hof, and so his name is Carney, Scott Carney. So I may go through and just say, hey, fuck it. Let me go through and just hire all three of these guys for $10,000 a piece. Well, there's 30 grand outside. And then we co-brand with them, not stolen, glory at that point, or stolen valor, but actually going through and making this fun and exciting and wealthy and profitable for them while we're also doing a good thing. And so they'd be happy for the cash, and we'd be able to generate a new content. And then that would put me, in EOR at, a top 10 New York's top 10 top seller list thing, with really very little energy that I would have to put into it. We could also go back and say, well, fuck it. We'll hire a couple ghostwriters and then let them do it. And then we'll edit it. And then that'll be something that you can do, Ron. And then we'll come up and, and Eric's really good at this stuff too, and so we go through and we have a couple people edit it, and then we go through and we publish it. And that can also work well for us. And then if you look at, well, then all of a sudden the published manuscript, or basically what we'll call a screenplay for right now, begins to, set out, and this is kind of where I wanted to organize the content with you and me for about 4 days. But outside of that, hey, we organize content, what's the other side of it? Well, let's go through and just come up with a plan of action for what our ontology and taxonomy look like, and then how much resources that we're going to put against some of these things. So there's a bunch of different ways that we can skin this cat. And then, and I guarantee you that we can have, 6-time world record holder, 26-time world record holder. Like, these are all my friends. Like Stig Severinsen, he's like my brother. And so, with that, he's got whatever 26 world records by himself. So if you go through and say, hey, we're writing a book and we've got representation by guys who have 75 world records between them, it's probably going to be something that's going to be well received, and that we could pull in $100,000 plus or a $200,000 advance from, whatever publishing house. And you go through and put some of that into marketing and advertising, and some of that will translate into video advertising and video clips and those kinds of things. So we should really be thinking bigger, is I guess what I'm trying to say. And we should be talking about how do we bring in money from publishing houses. And then if you look at Wally, I need to put you in on the phone. And maybe this will be Tim and Howard as well, but I need to put you on the phone with Wally. Wally's got fantastic ideas for how we actually get money out of Discovery Channel, or how we get paid by people who would want to air our series, and that could be very much like the next version of, hey, what would it be like if we went around and interviewed Wim Hof and Stig Severinsen, and Marty Gallagher and Captain Kurt Kowalski, you know, and other world record holders. You know, I don't know that anybody's done that recently, you know, where we have, hey, you know, here's our documentary series, you know, or docudrama series with world record holders, you know, and how do they do what they do?
How do they do what
So
they do is the compelling question. That's
oh yeah, absolutely. So, you know, even if that's the name of the series, right? How do they do what they do? Really fucking simple. I'm going to go watch how do they do what they do. So now all of a sudden you wind up with honoring world record holders like Marty Gallagher, 6-time world record holder. You know, we go through and bring in guys like Casper, you know, who actually teach, you know, what's going on with Wim Hof. So the science of what Wim does is what Casper does. So we can really get people who've already got fuck tons of content, and they'll work for us, you know, just honestly, you know, hey, we're doing a docudrama. Would you like to be on our docudrama series? Guarantee that it'll be for freaking free, or it'll be for less than 10 grand per student, per guest, per highlight.
We could do part of that through the nonprofit.
Yeah,
as well.
and go through, have them donate the time and et cetera, that kind of thing. You know, so since it's an educational series, so I'm just sharing some of these ideas that actually go through and get to be relevant. How do they do what they do? You know, in this season on how do they do what they do, you know, notice, right, that world record holder X does this, and notice that world record holder Y does this, and then notice this kind of superhuman guy do that. And then we get into, hey, you know, well, how do they do what they do? And maybe part of that is, you know, we begin to talk about neural feedback as a mechanism to be able to shift reality frames so that we can wind up achieving all of our dreams. Using neural feedback as a monitoring solution that allows for us to be able to let go of limiting beliefs and move into, you know, a world with greater abundance.
Well, with
and
how,
then,
with how do they do what they do, I think that the show might have its entertaining value, which means it may not dig deep, but I think every episode should be kind of like the intro to what we have to offer, and the rest of it is like the master class at the website to really dig deeper into it and maybe aggregate a monetization system from that.
Right. Sure.
So,
yeah, 100%. Well, and then who do we go into and pitch and talk to? So I've got plenty of billionaires that would love to go through and to be able to have this same content. We would love to go through and to sponsor the same content. And actually, the guys who originally founded Men's Health Magazine would love to sponsor us to be able to do these things. So the Rodale family, you know, so we begin to talk about the same guys that invited for me to go hang out with Prince Charles as one of the 20 most influential people in the world. And so, you know, how do we do this in a better way? And so if we wind up having, you know, a series like this, but then we have other people pay us for it. You know, in the same way that Vivian pitched me for, hey, would you like to go through and to pay to be on a TV show? Well, you know, like I'm open. You know, there's zero part of me that's in resistance to that. What I need to do is to make sure that I need to distill what it is that I want to say. I got so much to say.
You got
so how do I get? So how do I get? How do I get to a place of knowing what it is that I need to say in a distilled way, and then also I need to tie that to how are we making money? And so it's clear we make money in Vivian's model where I pay Vivian money. And that's cool. It's a good model for Vivian. And what I need to do is to be able to say, how does that pay Bob money? And then how does that pay William money because William works for me? And how does that pay Brandon money because Brandon works for me? And then to the extent of, you know, if I'm going to be paying money in this, then how does everybody work for me? And so I need to get smart about how this works. And so those are kind of my invitations for Ron, for you, for Vivian, for Wally, for Tim, for Howard. And then, you know, even to the extent of how do we collaborate with Musically, with Eric, and with some of the other content. So I know that these are things that we should be taking a review of. And there may be a review or two where we just go through and we fucking murder board the entire fucking website and say, is this anything that we even want to say? And is this the look and the feel of it? And we actually get to a place of having agreement so that everyone in the organization, so what is it that I'm looking to do? It, hopefully from the 8th through the 11th or something like that. And it may get pushed back a couple weeks, but you know, when I look at this, right? You know, however this works, you know, I'm really looking for team cohesion. So right now I'm paying something like $50,000 a month plus for the new team. So if I'm paying $50,000 or $70,000 a month, or I'm paying $125,000 a month, which means $1.5 million every year for labor, am I really getting, 10 million a year out of that, or am I getting 100 million a year out of that? And so there's a money component to it. We need to make sure that it makes sense. So, and then the rest of it is that outside of us making money, let's flip it. Are we actually doing, for every single person on this call, are we doing what we can do to be able to add benefit to our world? And how do we reduce the barrier to entry and provide maximum resources for every single human on our planet to be able to upgrade, to remember who they are, and to be able to find their divine purpose, and to be able to achieve their greatest levels of bliss. And so, like, this is our heaven on earth. And I think the more that people get to that, where they're saying, well, I'm going to have a shitty life now, and eventually I'm going to get to heaven. Yeah, maybe that's not the way that it needs to be. And so if we went through, which is to say, like what would it be like if this was your heaven on earth? And maybe you'd get pissed the fuck off, and maybe you'd rise up, and maybe you'd do something for a fucking change. If this is your heaven on earth, maybe you decide to be a lazy fuck. If you're heaven on earth, maybe you choose to fucking drop out of society and fucking live on the streets. If this is your heaven on earth, maybe you decide to fucking be a billionaire. Like, what do we choose to be? And how do we choose to be able to be loving and kind to support everybody in their journey and everybody in their choices? And so these are just some of the questions that we should all think about and review before we come back together. And to the extent that anyone's listening on the call to these specific things, if you're so inspired, write it fucking down and send an email out and say, hey, I thought about what you said, Bob, and here is, here's my manifesto. Here's my belief. Here's my recommendation. Here's how I think we can do this in a better way. Here's how I feel. Like, I don't even know how we're going to do this, because that's the universe's job. But here's what I believe our world needs to be able to hear in a better way. And so with that, I'm going to ask everybody on the call to assist me. And like, this is your time to shine. This is not my time to talk about my vision. This is about your time to be able to say, here's how I believe we can support your vision. And here's how that you resonate with the same vision. And here's why it's your same vision. And when it's your same vision, then honestly, I'm the angel for every single one of you. I'm the one that's investing in you being able to share your dream and your vision and your inspiration with our world. And that's the way it should be.
I love that. And I definitely want to get a copy of this recording. I also know that you love the Aura ring. Can someone, you or somebody, communicate with Aura and get a reselling agreement where we can repackage it, maybe even
100%.
under EOR's name,
Yep.
and be a sub product?
Yes, 100%.
Also be able to get it for a lower price for everyone. I mean, our whole team should be able to be using biometric devices right now.
Yes, 100%. Yes, 100%. And so, and that's part of it, right? Which is like, hey, join EOR and here's our starter package, right? And that's also like, where are you? Like, do you have a need to lose weight? Do you have a need to gain greater energy? Do you have a need to be stronger? Do you have a need to be healthier? Do you have a need to be more joyful? Do you have a need to be more at peace? Do you have a need to be able to get greater sleep? Like, do you have any? And if we just begin to ask the questions, every motherfucker, every single person on our planet, every beautiful soul on our planet, it's probably the better upgrade. Every single beautiful soul on our planet is going to raise their hand and say, yes, we're in a place to where we choose to have more of the good stuff. And maybe that's the other title, right?
Yeah.
Which is more of the good stuff.
And it's almost rhetorical when you phrase it that way. It's like, unless you're planning to leave this spaceship soon, you want to keep upgrading.
Yes,
so,
bingo.
How soon can you make a connection for, say, Aura as one specific task?
So I can do that. So then the question really, gets down to a time management thing, right? I can do that. And what I found is that Aura, from a CEO perspective, at least in the past, has been relatively unresponsive, and they've not been able to keep up even with production demands.
And they haven't either. I reached out to them and they were very, standoffish.
Right. That's what I'm trying to share with you. So in the past, that was my experience. Now I know that I can do anything, so I could be the guy. And that said, maybe we come in and we just simply do something different. And so there can be a way. Now, here's the other thing to be able to share with you is that Aura has a very open policy for API development. So you can go through and you can share the data from Aura. You can tap into more information than even their app shows you. And then we can integrate that into our own dashboard or into a dashboard that we purchase or into basically a dashboard that we share. And then we can go through and take that to the next level, you know, which is to say, hey, we're going to go through and we're all going to agree to be able to share our dashboards together. And that should be part of this, you know, circadian-based lifestyle upgrade solution, you know, a guide to healthy living, which is to say, hey, we're going to go through and we're going to have a class today, you know, but what would it be like if before everybody started their calibration class with breath and movement, what would it be like, or their calibration class with their Kirtan Kriya, or their yoga class, if you could go through and say, hey, you know, the instructor now says, I had 3 people check in from, you know, EOR's audio-visual department. So 3 people checked in, they're going to do yoga. And those 3 people had a shitty night of sleep last night because they were up having fun doing video production, you know, because post-editing is so much fun, right? So post-production. So because of that, you know, we just get very real about it. And then you can say, okay, hey, I can see that anyone who's in my class and only got 3 hours of sleep, like I honor the fact that you even showed the fuck up with 3 hours of sleep, but my prescription for you is go to fucking sleep, okay? Go back to bed. Or let's do some yin yoga right now. So we're going to fucking chill out and we're just going to stretch and we're not going to do anything tasking for your body so we don't break you because you only got 2 hours of sleep.
Which, Bob, I shared with you. I'm disclosing to everyone here that one of our intentions was to create a smartphone app that would aggregate this biometric data.
Right, absolutely. And these are things that we could do relatively low cost. I mean, probably 5 or 10,000 can get us an app that does that, utilizing the Aura. So like, we don't even need to worry about their standoffishness because they've already given us an API. So what do we need to do to be able to make money on a $200 device? Fuck that shit. You know, we make money because we create an ecosystem where everybody can live in a healthier way. So we get paid to do that. You get what I'm saying? So like who cares? So long as we can order them and they'll deliver them, and then, you know, let's not bark up the wrong tree. And I'm not saying we can't do it. I mean, there's a part of me that loves to white label everything. We'll brand it just like Eric said. But the other side is we can do this better. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course it makes sense.
Okay, so my tasking is
that
that
better, we wouldn't even have this conversation. So yeah.
Right. right. So with that, let's go through, let's revisit this later. And so I appreciate everybody being on the call. And then, you know, to the extent that there are taskers or visions or things that you choose to do in the world, and this, Eric, this is for you too. You know, if you choose to say, hey, this is what I get really excited about, then write out your personal excitement. My manifesto is, I choose to do at this point in my life, at my age, I'm going to make music, and I want to make music 6 hours a day. And then you could be like, and then I want to do something else for 2 hours a day because I want to get my mind off and I want to get my creative flow going. So multimodality, and they call multimodality kind of person is a polymath. So I want to be smart about poli-sci, I want to be smart about music, and I want to be smart about rhythm, and I want to be smart about content. So, you know, like I just do 2 hours of each a day, you know, and I mix it up. So maybe that's what you want to do, and then let's design your life to be able to do that. And let's have some flexibility, because if you're in the middle of a really good riff and you're in the flow, then you just need other shit to move out of the way because you're flowing. So let's find out how to style our lives in this great way. Does this make sense?
Clearly.
Yeah, definitely.
Eric,
great.
what
So
do you
let's
play?
go through.
What kind of musician are you? May I ask?
I play guitar and sing for a band based out of Jersey, actually. Long Branch, Asbury area.
Have you used any of these devices to do jamming, remote jamming with the kazoo program?
No, is that like an audio interface?
Yeah, this is the Sonic Port VR. It's got a stereo condenser microphone, inputs for your instrument, and you could do basically recording with it, but also connect to the world with this.
That's very cool. I'll have to check it out.
You have my contact information. Feel free to text me, and we could talk offline.
Sure. Yeah.
And then Eric, to that extent, you know, if you go through and say, hey, Bob, I found something else that can help us make music together, then just put it on your wish list and we'll put it in your budget, okay?
Well, there's a company called Jam Kazam, and they have, they're trying to raise more money so they can quit their day jobs and just focus on Jam Kazam. And they've got a great framework going really shockingly good for a couple of guys that are just kind of coding part-time. And they've got thousands of people that are involved in doing this. They're just having some challenges with latency. And this is like a great product that I think people are going to want to use in the future too, even after COVID.
Great. Yeah,
I'll
like I said, so
definitely
go
look
through.
at that,
Yeah. Send me a link in both ways, and then let's see what it costs and what we can do to sponsor it, and how we're going to be able to make some money with it, and how we reduce costs and get our message out to the world in a better way. So, like we should be able to take poli-sci 101 concepts, Eric, and be able to take it to the next level. And so, and how does our music support our vision, and how do we make sure that we're not sellouts, or like how do we make sure that whatever we do creates the better world that we appreciate and that everybody should love. You know what I'm saying?
And here's the GoFundMe with Jam Kazam. I just put the link on the chat if you wanted to grab it just to check it out.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And then so with that, I guess any save rounds or alibis, I think maybe we can just say, hey, we're probably good for right now. And then we go through and we go forward 2 more days. And then maybe we see, hey, what did anybody write out, or what can we do? And we visit on Thursday or Friday of this week. And then we, lock in what we're doing this next week. Does that sound like a pretty good plan for us all? And because clearly I need to get back with Tim and Howard and see what their availability is. Not that that should be a showstopper. I also need to look at airfare for, Mike and Greg and James, et cetera, and just make sure that all of this is going to work out in the way that we're looking for it to. So those are a few action items that I think that James is going to have with him and Paula through Terra Travel. So James, can you begin to work on where people would fly out of and what the lowest rates are, and then maybe also your nominations for where people could stay, and then can we do this with 3 rooms, or do we need to have an Airbnb with a house that's a 3-bedroom house, or do we need to have a 5-bedroom or a 6-bedroom house so everybody can have their own room so people don't snore and bother each other, or that kind of thing? So you can start looking into that, and then see if we can nominate something and see if we can reduce pricing. And we may find that because of COVID that airline tickets are $59 a piece, so it doesn't matter. And we may find that if we wait a week or 2 or 3, that the prices go down by 75%. So make some solid recommendations for me.
They will only go up as of now, because I'm keeping my mind on the travel deal. So the faster we book them, the better off that we are. I think Southwest right now, it's still got a deal, $49 each way. And the nice thing is that you can, with Southwest, if something happens, they actually let you change the ticket instead of telling you, so sorry, you're screwed.
All right. Well, we'll check with Greg and Mike both have daughters, and they're Mike's a single dad and she's a young girl. So maybe Mike wants to bring her to DC and they can tour DC together. Maybe that means that Mike needs his own room with 2 beds. But find out what's good for them both. Maybe they would have fun if they both traveled together. And at like $49 each way, it's $100 to bring Mike's daughter. Might be cheaper and better and happier for the 2 of them than Mike finding a babysitter in Dallas. Does that kind of make sense?
That's a really kind invite. That's really
fine.
great.
So tell me all the people you want me to get travel arrangements for. We got
So I'll text you over what we had initially thought and what I sent over to Brandon. And so
because then I'll go through my travel agency. Or our travel agency.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you, brother. Okay, so I just sent you the text message, okay? And so with that, and then also clearly Eric needs an invite as well. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so with that, basically I've got
Who's Donnie?
13. Donnie's a fellow that we met in North Carolina, and I think that he may be the perfect person to go into to learn here and to go down and to start our operations at the office in Houston. So he's a good old boy.
One of the things you need to do is, because Donnie, I have no email, no phone number.
I know.
I've got something. Mike, I got something. Brandon, I got something. Ron and Vivian, I got something. But I can't book travel for Donnie.
I know. Donnie will drive up. And so he's got a car. We're already working that, but we would need to have some accommodation. Yeah, right. All of these folks are going to need to have accommodations. So when you look at the top of this, so Mark, Amy, Bob, Tim, Howard, and Eric all live locally. Greg, James, Mike, Brandon will all need to have, Brandon will drive in. So Greg, James, and Mike will need airplane flights. Ron and Vivian can drive in. Brandon can drive in. Donnie can drive in. So we're looking for 3 airplane flights. And not for nothing, but if Paula wanted to fly up here and it was only $100 and it wasn't too expensive and she wanted to be here in person with us all, I'd be okay with Paula flying in too.
The only problem with that is
I know you got a kid.
she's got a kid, and she'd have to bring a almost 11-year-old with, which she wouldn't mind because her mother is taking care of her dying dad, and so she can't take care of him.
Got it. And stepdaddy's not in the picture or anything like that, or you know?
No, dad is a cop in Corpus, and with the hours they're having him work because of COVID, he even
Okay.
whole summer
Right.
vacation.
Okay, look, look at like the same thing for Mike. If I was going to say the same thing for Mike, we could say the same thing for Paula. So, she could bring her kid and he could come down and hang out, here, and play video games or something, or he could bring his own stuff and hang out at the hotel, so watch TV, make a little vacation out of it. So, it's a difference of, $100 plane tickets for round trip versus, $1,000 plane tickets. I get to be real generous at $99 plane ticket or $98, right? You get to $1,000 and all of a sudden, we don't want to spend $25,000, $30,000 for, flying people here, plus, whatever accommodations, plus any other kinds of costs that they may incur.
All right. Very good.
All right. Thanks, buddy. All right. Well, listen, let's go through and let's plan to resync. Let me know what you come up with on travel. I'm happy to book, tonight or tomorrow. And then also, but, check the rates, visit with Mike and with Greg, make recommendations. Looking at probably having everybody fly in on the 8th, 7th, 8th, and then staying, through, basically the end of the week, so let me see if I can go through and put this here. 1 second. Calendar. So basically, yeah, so folks could come in as early as the 6th or 7th, and they could stay, basically as long as they want, but at least through, the 13th. So see if they wanted to come in on the 7th or 8th and basically stay through the 13th. And if they have a reason to stay longer, then we can honor that request.
Okay. Come in 6th or 7th, and you're trying to do a week on that deal?
Yeah, I mean, just it's team cohesion, right? Team cohesion. How well do we work together? How well do we get stuff done? And then also, they're looking to do on June 9th, they're looking to do the ISO audit. So it'd be good if everybody was here anyway.
Okay. Okay, I will try to get everything arranged.
All right, very good. Yeah, and then brief me on it and make sure that we have buy-in from Mike and Greg on this. And then later, let's get the audio recording to Mike and to Greg so they can listen to it later. So for the first and second calls.
Who's doing the recording? Ron?
I think that Tim is, or Ron might be. Ron, is this your meeting room that you set up?
This
Or
is
is it
your meeting.
Denver?
I thought it was handed off to you. Bob.
No. So it was, and I hit record. Does that mean that when we're finished recording, it's going to tell me that I can download the recordings? I was going to tell me.
You got to save it. It's got a process, and then you have to upload it to James's Google EOR Google Drive.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm on my phone, so to the extent that works, then great. And so, so I'm just used to whoever started the meeting as the host. I know they transferred it to me. I just want to make sure that I wasn't missing a step. So, to the best that I can, I'll take this, we'll save it, and we'll send it out.
Okay.
By the way, Bob.
Yeah.
Apparently, just so you know, they've President Trump activated military treating riots as acts of terrorism, and they did a bunch of damage to St. John's Church there in D.C. They're really mucking everything up.
So President Trump enacted some kind of military powers thing to be able to
activate the military, treating these riots as acts of terrorism, and prosecuting those looters is the full extent of the law.
Wow. So, okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. And then also there's some other things that have happened. They said that they found through multiple cities throughout the country that they've actually put in pre-staged bricks, pallets of bricks, so that rioters could go.
Antiva. Antiva is now being considered a terrorist organization.
Yeah, so so we can talk more about that offline, but it's a very interesting times that we live in, which just more fodder, like it's more fodder for, distraction. And so this is more of a good reason for us to focus on getting healthy content to assist people in upgrading their lives. So, so let me be quiet, brief me on what you come up with Greg and with Mike, and then on the basic travel. And then I assume you'll be able to handle that with you and Paula. And then, Brandon said he can be here on basically the 8th through the 11th, and I believe that Ron and Vivian can be here from the 9th through the 11th. And then, to that extent, I think Ron and Vivian, it behooves you to, come up with some different, plans of action and milestones or some agendas that, you can brief everybody on, so that everybody's on board with, hey, we need to do the Ron and Vivian show, and we need to do the EOR thing, or, whatever that might be, that we can have consensus and synergy. And maybe what we find is that based on our conversation today, that that we now have new techniques for generating money, and Wally can get, maybe Discovery Channel to pay for a series with us. And then also, maybe we go through and we get a sponsor, right? So maybe we go and we talk to Walmart, and maybe Walmart's happy to sponsor these concepts for us. So maybe that's a good thing from the Walton family, or maybe Men's Health Magazine and Anthony Rodale, maybe they sponsor us, or maybe some of the other billionaire friends that we have. So these are probably good things that we can do. And then, so if we're getting paid from donation money, from Walmart, from Rodale family, from Men's Health, from other folks, well, we get paid 6 or 7 times, and then all of a sudden it redefines our budget and what our capabilities are. So I think we need to come up with, what is it that we're truly trying to document, and then how do we document it in the highest quality way at the lowest cost? And then so in the appropriate time frame, so that we can, catch the wave and ensure we're sharing profits on the back end with everybody. So to me, that's a good marching order for you or for any other production company that we can deal with. And that is, if you look at the recording time, I don't actually know, but I'm just going to say it's 3 minutes from the end of our call. So that would be my call to action for you, Wally, or any production company that we would choose to work with, and also the same for Tim and Howard, to the extent that that's applicable. So let me be quiet. I thank everybody for being on the call. I guess just once around the room real quick. Any save rounds or alibis? Anything else that we can be talking about right now?
Nope. This was very thorough again, Bob. Yeah. And of course, there's much more to go through, but I'd like to get down into the nitty gritty on the next sessions.
Great. Absolutely. And then I'm looking forward to hearing from you what your plan is and how you feel about it. And so because there's so much that you already know, and then I know, and then we need to get to a place of documenting it. And that's what Amy said. Hey, just sit in a very calm, silent place, and then meditate about it, think about it, pray about it, and get to a place that we document it, and then we take appropriate action. And so I think that that's good medicine for all of us. So I'm just going to reiterate what she had said. And I thank Eric, you for being on the call. Very impressed with you as a human being, and look forward to you leading the way in so many of these ways that you're capable of. So the more that you have good ideas, and the more you want to take stuff, and the more of a budget that you're going to be a good steward with, let us know. And also, same thing where I'd be saying, hey, I want to pay your dad more money because I want to see more of your dad's work, because I love your dad and he's awesome. I'd say the same thing for you. So if you need me to give you a raise so that you get excited about doing more work, well then, make it make sense for me and make it make sense for you too. Does that sound like a good offer?
Yeah, definitely. I'll look into that. Looking forward to it.
All right, buddy. All right. Well, I'll talk with you guys again soon. Okay.
All right. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Okay. Bye-bye.
Hi, have a wonderful night.
Night.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay. Bye-bye. Thanks, Vivian. Bye-bye now.
Thank you.